America deserved 9/11?
Of course. Of course it was a dumb statement.
Do you plan to continue to campaign with Hassan Piker in the general election campaign?
Less concerned now with who I'm campaigning with, a lot more.
NBC asked Michigan Senate nominee a direct question about the streamer he's been campaigning with. Watch him refuse to answer it 4 times in a row.
You face scrutiny for campaigning with socialist streamer Hassan Piker, who has made a series of inflammatory comments, as you well know, including saying America deserved 9/11, describing Hamas as a lesser evil than Israel. Do you plan to continue to campaign with Hassan Piker in the general election campaign?
Look, I'm less concerned now with who I'm campaigning with, a lot more concerned about who I'm campaigning to. We've got a lot of work to do to continue to build the coalition that's going to beat Mike Rogers.
Would you welcome him, though, on the campaign trail with
you? Like I said, I'm a lot more focused on who I'm campaigning to. So I think we have this notion sometimes on shows like this that we cannot or should not talk to certain groups of people. And I'll tell you that the 3 million people who listen to Hassan are people I want to make sure understand that there's a pathway into our politics around getting money out of politics so we can
count how many times Welker asks a version of this question and count how many times El Sayed actually answers it. 0. She asks if he'll keep campaigning with Piker, a guy who's on record saying America deserved 9/11 and called Hamas a lesser evil than Israel. El Sayed's response is a word salad about who he's campaigning to versus who he's campaigning with, repeated 3 separate times in slightly different phrasing without ever committing to yes or no. That's not nuance. That's a candidate who knows the honest answer. Yes, he's keeping Piker's 3 million listeners in his coalition would be a real problem in a general election, so he just refuses to say it out loud on camera. And when Welker pushed him again days later on Piker's actual comments, watch how his story suddenly changes.
When asked about Hassan Piker's comments on 9/11, Senator Bernie Sanders called it a dumb statement. Do you agree? Do you disavow those comments that America deserved 9/11?
Of course. Of course it was a dumb statement. And of course, I think Hassan himself would say that was a dumb statement. He disavowed it. So yes, America didn't deserve 9/11. But, to sit here and play gotcha politics with a dumb thing somebody said out of context that they disavowed themselves to say, oh, well, what does that mean about what you think? I want to be held accountable for what I say and what I do, rather than this idea that we're so stuck in cancel culture that all of us agreed was a bad idea back in 2020, but we seem to want to bring back.
Notice the shift. In the last clip, he wouldn't even confirm whether he'd keep appearing with Piker. Here, suddenly, he's fully comfortable disavowing Piker's specific comment and even accusing the media of playing gotcha politics and reviving cancel culture for asking about it. You can't have it both ways. If defending your association with someone is off limits because it's a distraction, then so is complaining that being asked about their comments is unfair cancel culture. He wants credit for disavowing the statement while dodging the actual question about the relationship that makes the statement relevant in the first place. That's not accountability. That's picking whichever answer sounds better in the moment. And it's not just Piker causing headaches. Watch what J.D. Vance said after El Sayed went after his own family.
Prosperity. So, of course, he's going to make personal insults. He's also gone after my kids. He's just kind of an odd guy. But I think that it's telling that instead of talking about what he wants to do to make the lives of Michiganders better, he takes personal insults at me. I'm the vice president. It comes with the territory. I think the guy's crazy and would be a terrible senator for the people of Michigan. We're going to make that case. And obviously the people of Michigan are going to make their vote.
Vance is actually being restrained here, and once you know what he's referring to, you'll understand why. Back in April, El Sayed did a podcast appearance where he questioned the racial makeup of Vance's own children, asked how Vance reconciles having brown kids who El Sayed suggested Vance sees as less American than everyone else, and told Second Lady Usha Vance she should leave the marriage entirely. That's not a policy critique. That's a sitting Senate candidate speculating about a colleague's biracial children and their place in the family, which is exactly the kind of identity-based attack usually reserved for the other side of the aisle. Vance calling him crazy and odd isn't hyperbole after that. It's arguably underselling it. And it's not just his associations and his personal attacks causing problems. Watch him get cornered on the actual math behind his signature policy.
You know, some Americans worry, though, you can only make Medicare free and universal if you increase taxes. So if you are elected and make this push, would you need to increase taxes?
As I've said across this campaign, I am for taxing billionaires their wealth.
What about people who
And
make less
for
than $1
the
billion and
average
less
person-
than $1 million, though, Dr. El-Sayed? What about people making less than $1 million?
So for the average person, and you look at your W-2, if you're an employee who gets paid every 2 weeks or 4 weeks, after you pay your taxes, the next biggest check that comes off the top of your pay stub is to your health insurance company. So imagine instead of paying that to your health insurance company, whose CEO makes $20 million a year, instead you paid a little bit more in taxes for healthcare that you wouldn't lose if you lost your job or turned 26 or got married or got divorced.
Count the pattern again because it's the exact same move as clip 1. The anchor asks a simple, direct question, will taxes go up for people making less than $1 million? And asks it 3 separate times in 3 different ways. El-Sayed never says yes or no. Instead, he pivots to a pitch about trading your health insurance premium for a bigger tax bill, which might be a perfectly good argument, but it is not an answer to whether your taxes go up. Watch closely. He only ever commits to one concrete number, taxing billionaires, and for everyone else, the average person, he switches entirely to a comparison about insurance company CEOs instead of a percentage, a bracket, or a straight admission. When a candidate can tell you exactly what billionaires will pay but goes vague the second the question turns to regular families, that's not a messaging problem. That's a candidate who knows the honest number would cost him votes.